We've been talking about exponential organizations and how they differ from brick and mortar traditional businesses. So, how do you go about actually building an exponential organization? Last time we talked about the 12 steps of building an exponential organization, and we covered the first 6. So, today we're going to cover the next 6. So, it's the second part. Hey, I'm John Harris, and welcome to another episode of Exponential Radio. And we're chatting all things exponential. The last point we covered in our last episode was, how to find a business model that actually suits your business. Today we're jumping in at building the MVP, the minimal viable product. And this is a critical step because of the ability to reiterate. So you're going through looking at the customer discovery. We've spoken about looking, right from the avatar, the different types of needs with regard to the problem that you're solving, understanding that customer, where they are, where they hang out, and how to get in front of them, how to get a message in front of them. And what we want to do is build that MVP around that, which really is sort of an experimentation, because you're going to alter that with regard to what clients actually give you on the feedback loop. Sometimes, especially in the digital world, it's quicker and easier to do, obviously, than in the physical world when you're creating things. And a lot of times, companies will start out in a direction and end up changing completely because of the validation that the customers actually give back to them. So if we look at something like vitamins and aspirin, vitamins are necessary over the long haul, but they're not there really to solve an immediate pain, whereas aspirin is. And that's why the power of aspirin is so much more effective as an immediate type purchase. And when we look at this thing, we've got to think about that with understanding of the pain point for the customer, a potential customer. If you take SpaceX, Elon's company, you look at the Falcon engines, Falcon 1, the million engines, you take Falcon 1 with a single engine, MVP, minimal viable product, 3 failures, just made it on the 4th. And then you jump to Falcon 9, which is very successful, but he obviously came to the realization and wasn't really too happy about it, where he realized that is not going to be big enough to get him to Mars. So now we got the Starship. I think there's 27 Falcon engines, something like that, some crazy number. But this is the kind of thing where you start somewhere and you make sure it's what the client wants, and then obviously you try and get a return on that, that you can then start to plow that back into the next phase. So a very important MVP. Next, we want to talk about validating marketing and sales. And this is what's great about a lot of the new metrics and the new way of doing things with exponential organizations, is that you can change direction, you can get information, a very valuable information. And obviously the first thing we look at is acquisition. So how are you going to acquire customers? How are you going to build out a lead funnel? How are you going to do your marketing? What channels are you going to use? Where are they hanging out, as I mentioned, and what's going to get them to be motivated to take action? Once you have the acquisition, you've got activation. So how are you going to make sure that they're excited with the experience that they receive, that they go through, and especially initially, and to see how that really excites the marketplace. And that has ramifications, as we'll see as we go down. Retention, obviously, our experience will be directly related to retention. Your loss of clients is really a big thing. That churn you don't want, or you want to reduce it as much as possible. It's always going to happen, but you want to reduce it as much as possible. The next one is the revenue. Where are your actual revenue streams? Where can you maximize your revenue streams? What is actually giving you the most revenue? And are there some things you should perhaps put a stop to? So revenue is the next one. And then referral, a great way to test whether your product is doing well, is at a right level, is if you're getting referrals. Word of mouth is by far the most powerful way of gaining traction. You can see that on online. We saw on Twitter with Tucker Carlson getting thrown off Fox, and how he got massive traction by word of mouth and people promoting him on the social media platform Twitter. So that was one to witness. The next issue we're going to look at is implementation of the attributes that we've spoken about. So we spoke about MTP, and we spoke about scale, the acronym scale, and ideas. And the massive transformative purpose, the MTP, is a real sort of graviton. It's what gets to gravitate everything towards it. Potential customers, but great employees, should I say. And it is what can, and great ideas. So it's very powerful. Then you're going to look at scale, which is externalities, which is staff on demand, it's the crowd and the community, it's the algorithms, it's leveraged assets, and it's engagement. Those are part of the external attributes that you want to look at to push as much as possible. You don't need all of these, but you can get through 4 of them, and it puts you on the right path. Internal, you want to look at the acronym ideas. It's interfaces, dashboards, it's experiments, and autonomous teams and social technology. So these are things that you also want to roll out, those attributes, which is very important in actually developing your model. We have canvases, obviously, we look at doing that. You build out your business model and a canvas for your attributes that you want to actually compile in order to start to get some clarification. Next point we want to bring to your mind is establish the culture. And here is a tougher one. You want to look at track, manage, reward, and that's your OKRs as opposed to your key performance indicators. This is company driven, transparency, accountability, execution. And really what you're trying to drive at, is high performance and getting trust, and hopefully people wanting to be part of the organization, wanting to achieve the MTP. Wanting is the key word. Asking key questions is another one that's very important. You're going to get to ask key questions, not all the time, but every 4 or 6 months you want to ask key questions like, who is your customer? Has that changed? Which problem are you really solving? I used to do stationery, and it took me a while to realize that to corporates that they were only using us because we actually were in distribution. So I wasn't really in stationery, I was in distribution, and I'm not a mechanic, so that really wasn't a good idea. And then the next is your solution should be 10x. So it would be better for me to actually build a platform and have interfaces and have, staff on demand as far as delivery is concerned. That would have been a better actual model. How to market and sell. So how are you doing it, and how can you improve upon those sales processes and the marketing, and how can you get people to become advocates? So these are very critical steps that we're giving you. This is the second phase. Remember, this is number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And number 12, the last one, really what we're looking at is building and maintaining the platform. So you're going to start out with identifying the pain. You're going to look at the core value between the producer and the customer. You're going to look at how you're going to get those interactions, how you're going to interface with people, and the network. You're going to be networking around that, building that out. And really you're trying to gather information, data. You're trying to organize it, the ETL. You're trying to apply it in a way that it changes things and gets the best information, new information that you can put out there, and then you want to expose it with APIs and platforms. So that gives you a little bit of the 12-step, and we haven't dived down too deep, but giving you the outline of the framework of the 12-step of starting a successful exponential organization. As usual, you can get back issues from me from john.arthurharris.blogspot.com. And as always, we will see you in the next episode.